Hey all, and thanks for stopping in for a quick little recap of Ironman Florida. Yeah, it was fourth on the day, which is definitely a little bit bittersweet, I guess. Overall, it was a good performance, and it was definitely a championship level field, but without the championship level money or the championship number of Kona slots. So that was a little bit disappointing to walk away with, not a whole lot to show for it. The day started out pretty decent overall. I got off to a rough first 100 meters, but was able to make up for it, get in the first group, and I was swimming right where I wanted to be. We made the first turn, and on the back stretch there were four buoys. You have the two red buoys on each side, then a yellow, and then the second one was an orange buoy. And unfortunately, the middle of the first pack for some reason decided to turn right there instead of going on to the fourth buoy. And I didn't follow them. Maybe in hindsight I should have, because they were able to swoop around and get back onto the first group, but it opened up a gap, and I wasn't able to bridge that gap. So I went from, I guess that's at the, about a 1K, a little over 1K mark. I was right in the first group and just kind of lost touch at that point, and tried through the next turn to get back in contact. Just wasn't able to do that, bridge that gap on my own. And came out of the water at the end of the first loop. We do an Aussie exit there. Came out of the water only 30 seconds down, which would have been great, but I was 30 seconds down and pretty much by myself. And then that's not great. The way that I'm swimming right now, I had showed that I had the skill to be in, or the enough fitness to be in that first group, but not to swim with the leader, at the same pace as the leader of the front group, essentially on my own. And so I ended up losing about 2.5 more minutes on the second loop, trying to navigate the age group traffic, which is always frustrating in a 2-loop course. But that's again part of the race. And yeah, came out of the water only 3 minutes down. Would have been great to be able to hang on to that front group if but like I said, I've still got to do the work there and try to find a way to I was able to put myself where I needed to be, but just wasn't strong enough to fill the gap when a gap opened up. You always hope the person in front of you does their job and holds feet, but unfortunately this time was one of those times where that didn't happen, and I was one of the couple that kind of got spit out because of that. So bummer. Move on to back to the drawing board on that, to keep trying to figure out a way to get into that group on a more consistent basis. That was one of my better non-wetsuit swims of the year. I had a really good wetsuit swim in Hamburg, a really good wetsuit swim at 70.3 Worlds. Nice wasn't the best swim for me. Swimming with a broken rib was a little bit tough, but yeah, so overall it's not a bad swim, but I still have some work to do on that front. Onto the bike, I was in no man's land for about 110 of the 112 miles. Really, yeah, pretty bummed about that. I knew how the dynamics were, had the potential of working out with so many really good front pack swimmers. The front pack came out in a group of 12 to 13 guys, I think. And then I came out by myself, and, the only person, or the only two that rode up through me were Cam Worf and Andy Dreitz. And I rode with them for a couple miles. And then otherwise, I got dropped, unfortunately, just didn't dig deep enough coming out of a corner, let a gap open up and got dropped, and then I was back to by myself. Cam was riding well. He was riding pretty hard to try to get up to that group, if to see if he could at least. He ended up dropping Andy shortly after, and then yeah, Andy and I both kind of rode in no man's land. I did have somebody that decided to sit on my wheel for most of the ride, and that's fine. But there was just no break from the headwinds in the first 60 miles. There were quite a few headwinds, and then when we got to the tailwind section, I held pretty steady with the lead group, but had a lot of damage had been done, and there had been a little bit too much of a gap that opened up. I figured that I needed to come out off the bike about 10 minutes behind the leaders to have a shot, and I came, or to have a shot at the win. And then I came in 15 minutes, and I figured I was going to have to run really well to get a podium. But if one of the top 5 guys broke down, or if I guess 2 of them didn't have their best run, maybe I could have been 4th, and thinking with Magnus only needing to validate, that 4th would have been enough for a Kona slot. But it turned out that the wrong guy had a tough day, and out of the top 4 guys that came off together, the 3 of them kind of held strong and were able to run pretty well. I got off the bike feeling good, settled into pace really quickly, and just, I think I was in 14th or 15th. But I had made up quite a bit of the gap that had opened up on the last, on the closing miles, and started passing people finally in the last 2 miles. I think I passed 6 guys on the bike, and there was 2 groups ahead, a group of 4 up front, and then everybody else kind of in the middle. And on the run, I was able to just kind of slowly start picking them off one by one. And I got to the first turnaround feeling really good. I was right on the target pace. I went out feeling that I had to run a 2:32 to put me at a chance at being on the podium. So I went out with the intent on running a 1:15 first half. I came around the first half in 1:14:45, so I was pretty much right on target. Maybe a little bit too hot in the first 10K, but was able to kind of tamper that down. And then I knew it was just going to be a battle to see if I could hold on. I got back, onto the second loop, feeling okay. Went right at the beginning of the second loop. I went to grab one of my salt tabs that I kind of planned on taking. I've carried the salt tabs and the loops in my race belt the exact same way every single race. I always put 6 of them in there and only usually take 4 of them. So I have 2 in case I drop them or whatever, or fumble with it trying to get it out of the package. And all of them were gone. So I'd only taken the 1 that I planned on doing around the 8 miles. And I'm like, oh shoot, that's going to come back to haunt me. And, tried to do what I could, took an extra gel. I was running with a bottle with EFS Pro, which has a fair amount of salt in it and some ketones in it. And, so I tried to take that a little bit faster than I normally would, but didn't want to, totally screw up my nutrition plan. But yeah, I got to the final turnaround, and I was, I think 4 minutes out of third, and I was putting about 40 seconds per mile into both second and third at that point. So I knew that, it was going to take a lot, but I still had a shot. And so kept running pretty strong. Every mile up through mile 23 was under 6 flat. And then I got a glimpse of Matthew in third, right in front of, or not right in front of me, about 45 seconds in front of me. I could see the bike finally coming around kind of that last bend when you get into the last, 4K straightaway. And I tried to convince myself that I had another push. And as soon as I tried to open it up a little bit and drop from the 550s that I was running, I tried to drop it down to about a 530, thinking that would put me pretty close to at least have a sprint finish. And I tried to do that, and as soon as I opened up the stride a bit more, the hamstrings unfortunately cramped and slowed me down a bit. So that was the slowest mile there with the 6:10 of the day, and then was able to get the last mile back under 6, but the damage had been done, and I just couldn't close that final minute gap to get on the podium. And like I said, I had passed, I think I was 5th at the turn and passed Jesper and Magnus. I was a little bit disappointed to see that it was Magnus at that point. I hadn't really picked out who was going on, so I thought coming in that 4th would at least get me the Kona slot, but then passed Magnus, and realized that I needed third to do it and just wasn't able to get the job done. So overall, it was the fastest run that I've had. I ran 2:34 or 40 something at Ironman Texas back in 2018, and that was before the carbon shoe era. So those were in just regular flats. So I was a bit frustrated that I hadn't touched that. I'd gone 2:35 a couple of times, 2:36 again in Nice, but just wasn't able to get under that previous time. So, that was a positive on the day. Good first chunk of the swim was a positive on the day. Overall, my bike power was good. The CDA on the post report was good. So I did a lot of things right. But, you just can't bike alone when the front group is organized and working together, and it's a big group of 12 guys. I just lost too much time to be a factor in the race. And, to be honest, Rudy had a fantastic day. I would have had to have been the front pack swim in that group on the bike to be able to contend with him. And that, obviously that didn't happen. So congrats to him and the other two boys up front. So that's kind of the way the day shook out. And one thing I do want to mention, although I didn't get a chance to experience it at all, or very much at all, I was really happy that Ironman decided to test out the Race Ranger. From what I heard from the guys up front, they were really happy with it. For me, it's another tool that lets me know, that I'm doing things right. It helps me ride a little bit more aggressively, maybe. I would have liked to get the chance to use it a little bit more, because it would have meant I wasn't on my own in all the wins, but that wasn't on the cards for the day. But I was happy that Ironman did take that leap and test that out, and I hope they continue to do that in the future, especially with these races coming up next year, where the Ironman Race Series, there are going to be some really big fields and really talented fields. So we want those races to be as fair as possible, and them getting the reports afterwards to show how much time every individual spent in the draft is just a positive thing. And it also helps the officials make, it's just another tool that the officials can use to make some fair calls and make sure that they're making the right calls. I really appreciated that. This video has gotten well long enough, so I'll leave it at that and check in later with kind of what the rest of the year is going to look like, and then some thoughts on 2024. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.